Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to J Wall Sports. We are back here with another episode.
Another. Hey, Pistol,
This,
receiver, hit my line. Hit my line.
what is up with you in this? When you bench your seasoned veteran quarterback this late in the season, it's sending a message to the team.
Then goes out. And now they want to play with some heart, they want to play with some effort.
I see why Doc got fired. If you're not going to make the adjustments of the coach, you need to go up and get up out of here.
Wentz has regressed. And it's a mental.
Disclaimer. He might have some outrageous, Max Kellerman type, things to say today. I don't know what he's gonna say, but the way he's starting off his video is giving me them vibes. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to J Wall Sports. Appreciate you guys for tuning in to another episode. As always, I got my co-host Sean with me, man. How you doing?
Doing good, man. How you doing, bro?
I'm chilling. I'm glad to be, back in the studio, back to getting back at this work.
Yeah, it's been a minute, bro. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute, and we got a real special episode for you guys today. We got two special guests. First, we have Russ from Timeoutsport. You guys can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Timeoutsport and his personal page on Twitter at The Rough Way. How you doing, Chris?
Going good. How are you all today?
I'm doing good, man. Also, we got Keith Mcbribe from Keithshottakes on Twitter, and you can follow him on his personal page at official_Keith3. Keith, man, how you doing?
I'm good. How about y'all?
Hey, man, I can't complain, man.
Good.
Glad to be back in the lab. Get to these NBA topics because things is going crazy out here, man. Curry been going crazy for the month of April, but before we're gonna get to Curry and how he been killing in a minute. But before we get there, we're gonna talk about the play-in tournament and how this unusual time that we're in is gonna continue to get unusual with the play-in tournament. So for everybody who doesn't know, the NBA is going to be having a play-in tournament where the 7th and 8th seed and the 9th and 10th seed will be competing to get into the playoffs. So the 7th and 8th seed will play each other. The winner out of that game will go on to play the loser out of the 7th and 8th seed will go on to play the winner in the 9 and 10 from the 9 and 10 seed, and they will become the 8th seed. So we're going to start with you, Keith. How do you feel about this play-in tournament?
Well, me personally, as a fan, I like it, but I can see why the players don't like it, especially the 7, 8 seeds, especially if you worked all year to get those spots. I can understand why they feel like they shouldn't have to play in to get those spots.
Man, I have different thoughts on it. I believe that it can be a positive, for a season like this where we see teams like the Raptors who are resting guys. Kyle Lowry sat out 4 straight games with rest. And so it gives teams, even teams at the bottom, it gives more teams a reason to compete until the finish line. In normal seasons where you didn't have the play-in tournament, you would just have the top 8 teams and maybe the 9th seed that feels like, with a week left in the season, they have a chance to make it. But when you have this scenario where it's going to be 7, 8, 9, and 10, like I said, you have more teams that's going to be in it at the end and feel like they have something to play for. So I think for a competitive reason, that's a good thing for the league so that you don't have as many teams just, tanking and resting players and, just giving up on the season with 2 and 3 weeks left. Now, I also could see why players on the teams that are in the playoffs right now would be upset about it, because it's like you're giving teams that kind of struggle an opportunity to make up ground at the end. But for me, like I said, I think it's a positive idea. Last year it was competitive, and I think it's only going to be better this year. When you look at some of the potential matchups we're going to have, I think it's going to be very intriguing as we could end up seeing the Blazers versus the Warriors. That's a series, that would be very entertaining in my estimation.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Blazers and Warriors. is very interesting. That's the Blazers is Nyshawn's team, so he I don't know if he's really gonna be happy about having to face Steph Curry, especially with this hot streak they're on. But I completely agree with you that the play-in tournament is going to be completely weird. Nyshawn
Blazers gonna pull that one out, but we ain't gonna go there yet. We ain't gonna go there. I personally, I don't like it. You know, it kind of reminds me of like the first for in, first for out of the NCAA tournament. You know, like you don't work all season, you know, just to get in the spot you're at. Then you can lose it in just one game. You can have an off game, and boom, to go your season. You're playing the Nets first round or the Jazz the first round. And I don't mind the players taking a rest towards the end of the season, preparing their bodies for the next stage of fighting for a championship, which is what all the players dreamed of. So, you know, I don't like that, man. I do like the competitiveness, you know, that's adds a different component to the game for the viewers to see, but from an athlete standpoint, I ain't vibing with that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I agree with you guys. You guys all made good points. Personally, I'm on the fence about the play-in tournament. I don't know how. I got to see it play out because it's weird because, like you said, the Raptors and not the Raptors, but the Blazers and the Warriors could potentially be going at it, and the Warriors are a 10 seed. The Raptors, I mean, I keep saying Raptors. Jesus, the Blazers, they're a team that could really make some noise, you know, in that play-in tournament. They could cause a lot of problems if they had to play the Jazz because last time they were healthy, they were the 4th seed and they went to the Western Conference Finals when they lost to the Warriors. So I can see it playing out in a good way, you know, to mix up competition for, you know, teams who are battling injuries. But I think it's really hard to tell, you know, how it's going to play out until we get to, you know, an 82 game regular season so we can see everything come within full circle. But I think it's a good way to bring up the fan engagement and, you know, bring more hype around the playoffs. Keith, you have anything else you want to say about it?
Yes, I feel like the Blazers, I don't know about y'all, but I feel like they should have kept Gary Trent because it seems like ever since they traded him, they've been really struggling. I don't know if it's chemistry or what, and I just don't think that the teams that's not in the play-in, I don't think that it's fair for them to get an extra week off, and then the teams that's in the play-in, they have to sit there and battle it out for a week before the real playoffs start. So I think that's kind of a disadvantage for the play-in tournament.
I agree with what he said, kind of on the Gary Trent Jr. Front. I think that they gave up on him too quick. I mean, he showed some promise with them. He was not getting consistent run. And so I do believe they kind of made a mistake. Definitely this season, it's thrown off their chemistry. Over the last 2 weeks or so, Damian Lillard is struggling. I don't know if he's injured, but I mean, he's only averaging around 19, 20 points per game on like less than 40% shooting. So he has not been good, you know, according to his standards. Robert Covington is a guy that has not given them much lately. They're going to need him to step it up. It's interesting. I'm going to ask a question. So with that being said, we're talking about rest and things like that. Do y'all think the season should stay around 72 games? Should it go back to the 82 on a normal year, or should they even go down to maybe 65? Because like I said, I keep seeing all of these teams resting guys. You know, they're saying back-to-backs is the reason for it a lot of times. I'm a person that does not believe in resting these guys. You know, now I understand if you rest a guy that's in his 17, 18 season, 1 or 2 games, but when you have guys that are sitting 6, 7, 8, 9 games in the season for rest, I'm not a fan of that because you have paying customers who are supporting you, whether it's going to the games, whether it's buying tickets, whether it's buying merchandise, all of that. So what are y'all thoughts on what would be the perfect amount of games for an NBA season?
I think they should drop it at like 72 because that's like
that's where they're at this season, and they're still resting. But that's after the short, you know, off season, the shortest off season they've ever had, really. So I think the 72 is a solid number on a normal off season, you know. But this year, like we said, it was like 71 days off for LeBron, which is But that's unfair to ask a man going into his 18th season. And that's what's
Right.
led to these injuries. That's what we have to talk about too. All of these injuries. When you think about it, pretty much the only player who's top 10 that has not missed over 9-10 games is Nikola Jokic. He's the only one that's played every game.
Yeah, that's oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Keith.
Oh, I was just gonna say I would like it to be 72, but I just don't think it should be so condensed because, like you were saying, I think that's why we've been seeing so many injuries and people resting is because it's so condensed, and they're more worried about the postseason than they are the regular season. But I do agree with you on your point. Like, say if it's the Lakers coming to Charlotte, they only come to Charlotte once, so you wouldn't want those guys to be resting because those tickets are gonna be mad expensive. And you go to take your kid to see LeBron, and then he's in a sweatsuit or something like that. That can be kind of disheartening.
Right. I agree with what you guys are saying. I really think it's the condensed season is why we're seeing so many injuries because it's the 72 games. I think that's like got to be the perfect number if it just wasn't so condensed. If we were able to start in October and go to 72 games, I think we would see a lot more production from players, not as much rest coming from players. Because I also think that, how most of these athletes are growing up with the rise of AAU becoming more and more important. They have a bunch of more games on their legs compared to Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Shaquille O'Neal when they were growing up. So I think dropping that number down to 72, we'll be able to see less resting and more production from your stars, especially when we get to the playoffs time.
One last thing I'll say on that, I think the league needs to hold these teams accountable for allowing this rest to take place. The Raptors, like I said, ended up resting Kyle Lowry 4 straight games, and then the league fined them $25,000. What is $25,000 to an NBA franchise?
Yeah, isn't the 25,000 the same thing that what's his name from that was on the Heat? That got he got fined. I think
Miles Leonard got fined 50.
Yeah.
So he got fined more than the whole team. I mean, come on now. That's a slap in the face.
Pretty much. I think they need to like even out make more penalties like what Miles Leonard did. Those need to be more excessive. So I'd say 60,000 and then a suspension for X amount of games. They just gave him a fine and no suspension. Kyle Lowry, I think Kyle Lowry could have been lower because it wasn't really bad. He was just resting. But I just find that weird how his was only half of what Miles Leonard did.
No, I'm saying that for the team, the team should be held accountable for that. Because like I said, it goes back to the paying customer and the brand. We have games that's been on TV lately where you saw the Sixers versus just other superstar teams or some of the best teams in the league, and the superstars weren't playing. That takes away from the game for the average fan. Now, people like us who just love the game, who are covering it, we're going to still watch. But I can see why the ratings are down. So many injuries, so many people resting, so many blowouts. I call it the National Blowouts Association because every night, listen to me, every night you have teams losing by 30 plus. Every single night, it's at least one game that's decided by 30 or more points.
Yeah, how would you? And I'll refer this question to you, Keith. How will we be able to affect a team? Like, what ways could we be able to punish a team for allowing players like Kyle Lowry to sit out for 4 games that will really make them get the point across? Because as a analogy, as a child, if you had to sit in your room for a week, you got the picture quick. After a day of no TV, you just sitting there looking at 4 walls. You get the picture quick. How is the league going to be able to fine or penalize these teams for doing so to where it will be marginalized?
I feel like if they maybe take away draft picks, maybe that could help because like Ruff was saying, I remember the other week the 76ers played the Nets, and although it was a back-to-back for the Nets, I think, the Nets, they rested almost everybody. I know KD was out, and it wasn't really that competitive. I know the Nets made it competitive in the fourth quarter, but I just don't like when teams rest their stars when the games are on TV. Now, if it's on regional TV, then I can understand maybe, but when they're on national TV, I want to see the stars playing so we can get good games. I don't want to see the backup players playing against each other. So I think maybe if they take away draft picks or up the fines, maybe for these teams resting players, I think they'll stop doing it so much.
I have an interesting take on that. So what if the league start putting teams like, if you start resting players, we're gonna go back half a game in the season. Y'all lose a half a game.
Ooh. I was just gonna say that, and I was gonna say take a game away.
Ooh,
because that would I feel like that would be the best way to affect them. Because if you take draft picks away, I think that's I don't know what you're gonna do with the draft pick. Are you just gonna give it to the worst team just so they can add on to their team, or are you just gonna like nobody gets the pick? I think there's too many questions to what we're going to do with that draft pick, who gets that draft pick, who's more deserving of that draft pick. And that, I feel like that's going to like go into a whole bunch of clauses and different rules. Taking a game away, that affects the season right then and there, because what if you're tied for second in your conference? I mean, or first in your conference, but you get penalized for resting Kyle Lowry for X amount of games, and now you're the number 2 seed, and you no longer have that home court advantage that teams love so much going throughout the entire playoffs.
Yeah, all of those things that you all said are valid. I just think I don't know necessarily what they need to do. It's something that I would have to probably think about more. But just the difference between NFL and the NBA, one of the reasons why people feel compelled and enabled to just sit is the guaranteed money. You don't feel like your job is at danger or at risk. NFL, unless you're literally Tom Brady or one of the top players in the league, every week you want to go out there and play, and you want to go out there and play well, because we know they cut people quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Yeah.
In the NBA, most of these contracts are locked in. And so they just, they get their money whether they sit out for the rest or not.
That sounds like I Am Athlete. Brandon Marshall was going back.
Brandon Marshall was going crazy.
Oh man, that was funny. So before we go into the next stuff, I kind of want to ask. So I know a couple years ago they were talking about kind of mixing up the conferences in the playoffs. How do y'all feel about that? Maybe going that route when the playoffs begin.
I feel like it will work, but say you got like Boston playing Portland in the first round, that'd be a long flight. Like if it's the normal playoff format, that could kind of get taxing maybe for them, because that's a long trip going cross country like that. Especially if it goes 7 games, that'd be my only concern. But I would like it because that way we get the best 16 teams. But my only concern would be the travel.
I mean, that way you can kind of revert back into like the Jordan days where, first round go to 3 games, second round go to 5 games, and so on and so on. That can be a way to condense that issue.
Right. And then you also like, if you do the 16-team tournament, you gotta think about they'll get days of rest in between games, because it won't be, them back to back days, unless like they make it to, the like it wouldn't be conference finals anymore, like the Final Four, I guess we can call it like that for now. Like unless they make it to like the Final Four or something like that, then it would be like real taxing with the travel. But I think they could like, I don't know, I would say neutral site, but home court advantage is so big that a neutral site is kind of like messing with you.
That's true.
Unless they did like a bubble where it's all in one neutral site and you just get it how you live at that point.
I would like it that way if it was that way, but I just feel like if we did it like that, and like I was saying, if the Celtics and the Trailblazers played in the first round, I do kind of think, even though you get days off, I think that could kind of wear on them having to travel all the way across country like that. But if it's in a bubble, I would love it if they could do it that way.
Right. Especially like when you go to like injuries, because like they won't let certain players fly who just got an ankle injury because the high altitude will like increase the swelling. How do you feel about that, Russ?
I agree that we definitely need to figure out how to get the best 16 teams in the playoffs. Because you see it be lopsided sometimes. You see, teams like right now this season, I think the teams that's going to make it in the East, some of them aren't even 500. And so I agree with that. They need to figure out how to just get the best 16. I think just do it by record. The best 16 teams record-wise at the end of the season will make it. I don't care if it's 11 West and 5 East.
Right.
That again will motivate you to play every game and take it serious. The teams right now in the East, I know, are resting guys because they're looking at the standings and they might be in the 6th seed and they under 500. They say, well, some of them teams, I don't have to worry about them catching me. But if it was a thing where it's going to be the best 16 teams, it would just make the value of each game more important.
Right, and what I was going to say is that like how the NFL does with the Super Bowl, how it changes each different cities each year, the NBA could do that with where they would hold the playoffs at, or they could split it up into like 4 different cities. So we'll have 4 games here, 4 games in one place, and 4 games in the next place, and 4 games next place, and just rotate it all throughout the United States of America. So everybody is, the entire world is having a chance to, get these tickets to, something that's close to home.
I agree with that. The last thing that I say on that, I don't agree with taking away home field, though. Because we know that that's real. Some places like the Knicks right now, this season, it's going to be kind of tough to play the Knicks in the playoffs. Because we know that their fans, they have been craving the playoffs. They have diehard fans. And so I don't think you want to take away home field, being on your own court. But like you said, it's just going to come down to getting back on track and being able to space this thing out, whether it's the regular season or the playoffs. I would like to see no more back-to-backs in the NBA. None.
Yeah.
And that would then give teams no excuse to say, oh, we sitting so-and-so because it's a back-to-back and they just had to travel and all this. If there's no back-to-backs, you have no reason not to be on the court unless you are injured.
Right. Nasha?
Shoot. I think it'd just be good to implement all the ideas I kind of put in. I don't know how exactly all those extra keys will work out, but kind of going with rough, man. That home court hit different.
It do, especially like your teams, like you said, the Knicks, Utah, LA, Brooklyn, who's gonna be, gonna probably, go deep. They're most definitely gonna go deep in the playoffs. Like their fans are gonna be itching for that. So it's all gonna be interesting.
Can't forget Boston, because that in the playoffs, they get crazy in Boston.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, Lamar brought up Stephen Curry, how he's been on the tear. With the season winding down, there's a lot of players making a serious case to take home the MVP trophy. As of right now, Stephen Curry, Joel Embiid, and Nikola Jokic are in the lead right now. Rough. Who you think's taking home the trophy?
You know what? I wrote together some stuff. I just want to give y'all this information. For me, my MVP would be Nikola Jokic at this point. And with it being 10 games or something like that left, it's pretty much not a lot, but he's my favorite right now. And I'll tell you why. He's played every game, like I stated earlier. Every single game. That for me is big. So he's been fortunate not to be hurt, but not only has he not been hurt, but even on those back-to-backs where he could say, oh, I'm a rest, Nikola Jokic has just been available. That's important for me. Then when you talk about what he's actually doing on the court, he's 26 points a game. He's 56% from the floor. He's 41 from 3, 11 rebounds, and almost 9 assists. So you're talking about impacting the game in every way. And he's playing better defense than people say this season. So for me, Nikola Jokic is my MVP. And then when I look at the records, The reason why I won't go Steph is because his team is going to be in the play-in. And it's not like it's been perfect for Jokic either. As we know, Jamal Murray is out right now. He's been out for weeks at this point. But the Denver Nuggets are in the 4th seed, and they're only 2 games back from the Clippers for the 3rd seed. So when you compile all of that information, for me, Nikola Jokic is MVP worthy.
I definitely agree with him. I think Jokic, I think he's going to win it. I think Embiid would have had a strong case had he not got hurt because he's been dominating this season. And Curry, if his team had a better record, I think we'd seriously be talking about him in the MVP case. But since, like Ruff said, they'll be playing in the play-in tournament, I don't think you could award him the MVP trophy. But Jokic in the 4th spot right now, or Embiid, who's there, I think 1st or 2nd. So I think Jokic is going to win it just because he hasn't missed a game. And I think Embiid, it'll hurt him that he missed all those games with that hyperextended knee.
And then he missed one the other night. You know, you can't just keep missing games, resting and not. I mean, he's going to be at least what? He's going to miss about 21 out of 72. That's too many for me. Especially, like I said, when you have a guy that's missed 0. Now, if it was a case of Jokic missed 15 and he missed 20 or whatever, then that would be more, even. But when you talk about a guy that's been available every single night, I got to honor that.
Yeah, and just to give context on what you guys said, Joel Embiid, so far, he's played 42 games, while Nikola Jokic has played 61. And I got another question that made me think about it. So does the play-in tournament actually count towards the playoffs, or does that count towards the regular season? Because I feel like that could skew, how this MVP voting is going. Because how you guys said, if, we would give it to Steph Curry, but it seems going to be in the play-in. Well, if they're counting the play-in as the regular season, and Steph Curry, goes crazy and he goes, 40 point back-to-back and then gets his team into the playoffs, I don't know, if that will be factored into it or not, but I think that's something interesting that we all can think about. Ruff, I saw you shaking your head, so I'm going to let you go.
Yeah, I don't think it's the playoffs or the regular season. It's just the play-in tournament. The regular season body of work is these 72 games. And so by what I'm saying is if we're after 72 games, yes, Steph Curry has been great. But after these 72 games, your team has not been great. Y'all are in the 9 seed right now, I believe. And you're gonna have to fight to even make the playoffs. For me, Jokic is sitting well, 4th seed, like I said, played every game. That's it. Steph Curry playing well, even if he was to go, like you said, average 40 in the play-in and get them to the playoffs, that still wouldn't sway me because I'm looking at the regular season being the 72 games.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I got Nikola Jokic personally because he's the only person that was top 10 in our 3 most important categories that we look at, and that's points, rebounds, and assists. And he's top 5 in assists because right now he's tied with Luka and CP3 at 8.7. And he's like you say, he's the only person to play every game so far, and I think that's gotta be, that's gotta go a long way. Now, so much of me wanted to come in here and say LeBron should be the MVP.
Oh man, here we go.
But he ain't played enough games. I couldn't even bring myself to say it. If he would have finished the season, I would have given it to him. But he ain't finished the season. Now, Sean, I promise you, I will kick you out this Zoom if you say Damian Lillard is your MVP.
Hey, I was rocking with them the whole season, but they've been on the slump, man. I think they dropped down to 7th now. And like Russ said earlier, he's been averaging like 19, shooting less than 40%. So he's dropped, man. They was right there with Denver behind Jokic. So that was a really intense conversation to have. But I mean, y'all made an argument for me. Jokic is MVP. I mean, another way to say it. Even losing Jamal Murray a couple of weeks ago, they haven't dropped in the standing in the West. If anything, they made it a little bit closer to the 3 seed. So MVP.
So we're all agreeing here that Nikola Jokic is going to be the 2021 MVP.
I would say that if they didn't take away from Embiid all the games he missed, he is averaging the second most points per game for a center since Moses Malone in 1981-82. He's averaging 30 points per game, but unfortunately, when he got hurt with that knee injury, I think that's just going to hamper him, unfortunately. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
All right. I got one more question, and we'll start with Sean with this one. This is a random question thrown out here. And you're the Sixers GM. Are you thinking about moving off of Embiid because of all these injuries? You got to think about it. He missed the first 2 years, with injuries after he was drafted, and I don't think he hasn't played a full season yet since coming into the league.
I think I would say I'm not 100% sure how the team management, what's it called? What am I looking for? The team doctors and everything. The team doctors and everything, how they've been going, because the Sixers have had a lot of problems with draft picks and these injuries. So when you look at it as an organizational standpoint, like, what are they doing?
Trusting the
process. These players. You have to look at players like Embiid, and I think Nolan Snow had a couple injuries when he was there. Markelle Fultz. A lot of these top players that they picked, they don't seem to stay healthy long. So
that's the process.
That's a terrible process. Then you can't blame the player for something that you created.
Yeah,
but
I agree today.
I would keep him. He's definitely a centerpiece for that team, a glue guy. Yeah, I keep him.
I wouldn't know what to do with him, honestly. He's like a one of a kind player. I don't think we'll be able to find somebody to be, as dominant as Embiid is and how he impacts the game. But geez, like, can I get you for a full season? Can I get you for what? Can I get you for 72 games at least? 65, something around that number? Like, it's a hard decision to make it, but Embiid, it's either the organization is going to make the decision for Embiid, or Embiid's going to make the decision for himself to, get better in the weight room, change his diet. I don't know what his diet is right now, but doing those small nuances, your sleep that people are talking about so much more now. Those little things that are what needs to be changed in Embiid for him to be durable.
But even then, if he I'll let you finish.
I was just going to say, and get this team to, potentially a championship. Get them back to the Eastern Conference Finals at least.
What would you get in return for him, though? Because, like you said, all these injuries are not playing a full season. What are teams willing to give up for him? And then I don't see them building a team around Ben Simmons.
I don't see him building a team Ben Simmons either, but I don't know, man. But I know you can get some comparable pieces for him. Like your teams that are want to win now, like Boston, the Suns, like some of those teams like that are ready to win now, and they have that small window, for championship contentions. I think they would take a gamble on and give the Sixers a whole bunch of draft picks and a whole bunch of other role players, for Embiid.
I think that it's some players that just can't avoid injuries. I mean, it's unfortunate. It's some things that he possibly could do, like you all said, his diet, maybe the type of training that he does. I think he probably needs to add more swimming to his workouts. I mean, I don't know if he does it or not, but I think that swimming is kind of a pliability type workout, and it doesn't put as much pressure on you being that he's 7 feet and 290 pounds. He's just going to have to try to figure out that balance. And as far as trading him, I think if you was going to do it, you should have did it last season. And I think at this point, like you said, if you trade him, what are you going to get back? And then when you talk about Ben Simmons, I've watched a lot of Ben Simmons. He's just not that guy. If he can be the complimentary piece, it's like AD. Some people won't like this. AD is very talented. I mean, he's even more talented than Ben Simmons, obviously, and he's a great player when he's alongside LeBron. But when you're trying to win, AD can't be the number one guy. He's proven that. And the Pelicans, they weren't even close to being a contender. So I think that same way about Ben Simmons. He's talented, but on a night-to-night basis, you just don't.
I think we lost. I think we lost Ruff a little bit. Keith, go ahead.
I definitely wouldn't trade Joel Embiid. I would definitely try to get more spacing around him because y'all remember last year when they had him and Al Horford, they had Tobias Harris, how bad the spacing was on that team. I feel like they should try to get more shooting around him. That way he can have more space in the paint to operate. But I do understand what y'all are saying about the injuries because it does seem like every year he gets hurt and he misses a lot of games. But I just feel like he's too dominant when he's on the floor to even think about moving him.
Right. And I think personally, I think Joel Embiid, he can't be your true number one. You know, he can score with the best of them, but for durability reasons and leading a team to the playoffs, championships, stuff like that, I don't think he could be your number one. Think about the last time they went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Who was that main force in that team? It was Jimmy Butler. Soon as Jimmy Butler came in after that trade, he hit 2 back-to-back game winners for him in the exact same spot that year. So I just think they need to find somebody, a guard that can go along with Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris, but that can be, the main scorer. Or Tobias Harris needs to step up and be the main scorer. I don't know. So
I don't think they should have let Jimmy Butler go because he was so good for him. But I just don't think that they could handle his. He's gonna say it how it is, and I don't think they like that. So,
I mean, but like, you need that though.
Yeah, you do.
You need that kind of person who he not gonna lie to you. He gonna tell you how it is, and if you like it or not, well. That's just the kind of person Jimmy Butler is, and I think with Jimmy Butler being that kind of person, that's why he was able to drive that team to at least the Eastern Conference Finals.
For sure.
So, yeah. So moving on, this is the last take we got for the day. I do want to thank you guys again, Keith and Ruff, for coming on the show. I like getting the different perspectives from both of you. So before we go, call it right here. We're gonna start with Ruff. Who's winning the NBA? Who's taking home the NBA championship?
That's almost an impossible question to answer at this point. I mean, but this is what I'm going to say. If you look at the teams in the landscape, if the New Jersey, if the Brooklyn Nets become whole, that means Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, James Harden, they're all healthy. Everybody's healthy. It's going to be tough to beat them because you have 3 guys that can get 50 on any given night. 50. If the other 2 guys are struggling, the other guy can literally carry you. When I look at the Lakers, you have 2 guys that are capable of that, but you don't have that third. When you look at the Sixers, you have 2 guys that are capable of 40, maybe 50. Embiid and Tobias Harris, but you don't have that guy. Ben Simmons in a playoff game is not getting 40 or 50 points because he don't shoot threes. So he's not getting ready to get 40 or 50 points off of layups and dunks. That's not going to happen. What other team do you have that's like even a contender? The Suns, I think, are good, but I don't think that they're on that level.
They don't have enough player experience either.
No, so when I look at it, I say, man, I'm a LeBron fan. I want them to repeat, but Brooklyn's going to be a tough out. They're going to be a tough out if they come back and they're 100% healthy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going for the Lakers because I'm gonna put my trust in the King. So I'm going with the Lakers going to take it home. I want them to play the Nets just because I want to see LeBron and KD go back at it again. I think this would be the the first time they will be the most evenly matched when they are in the finals or meeting in the playoffs at all. Because when they met with OKC and Miami just overpowered them. Golden State was Golden State. We all know. I ain't even gonna have to go into that. But I think this would be the most comparable they will be. I think that Dennis Schroeder and Kyrie Irving matchup is gonna be the marquee matchup. I don't know how that's gonna work out for Dennis Schroeder, but I think that's gonna be the matchup for that finals. I think those one of those how whoever plays the better, I think is gonna be able to sway that finals game.
Let me just say this really quick. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that Dennis Schroeder can't mess with Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving is a bad dude, man, and we sometimes forget that. I think due to his antics, some of the things that he's done and sitting out the games and taking personal leave. But Kyrie Irving is a special talent, man. In my opinion, the greatest handler of all time, one of the greatest shot finishers and creators. So I'm gonna go ahead and tell you now, Dennis Schroeder, he's not gonna be in hand with Kyrie Irving. He's just not. So I don't know. LeBron,
I'm not saying he gotta hold him to. I'm not saying that Dennis Schroeder gotta hold him to 5, 15. Hold him. For somebody to beat the Nets, you gotta hold one person to within the 20s. You gotta hold one person in them 20s, and I think Kyrie Irving is the best person to hold within them 20s out of the three.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds good. I don't know how it's
really
gonna work
does.
out. Like I said, I don't know how it's gonna work out, but hey, out of KD, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving, I think Kyrie Irving is the one person who might be able you can hold the 20. But Keith, who's taking home the NBA championship and why?
I think it's going to be the Nets because unless something happens health-wise, I just don't see anybody being able to beat them 4 times in a playoff series just because they have too much firepower. Like Ruff was saying, any of their big 3 can go for 50 on a given night. Now, I do have concerns because, Harden has kind of come up small in the playoffs, but I just feel like all 3 of them together, I just don't see anybody having the firepower to beat them 4 times. But I do think if the Lakers can get a consistent third scorer, I do think that's going to be a great series, and I hope we get that for the NBA Finals.
Yeah, the one thing that I'll say also, the Nets they have so much, man. They have firepower. When you talk about, like I said, we know about the 3, KD, James Harden, and Kyrie. But when you look at shooting, they have shooting outside of that. When you talk Shamet, when you talk Joe Harris, Bruce Brown, I mean, it's going to be very difficult. Then they can go small and bring in Jeff Green. They can play Jeff Green at the 5. And you're just going to have shooting at every position. See, the thing that is the problem for me with the Lakers, they're shooting.
Sure.
KCP has shot the ball well lately, but he's not consistent. Wesley Matthews, he hasn't been very good at all this season. Kyle Kuzma. I mean, what am I supposed to expect? Kyle Kuzma is just not. He's just not lived up to what we thought he would be.
Right, I completely agree with you on those 2 points, but we got to remember that I think this next team is going to be 10 times more dangerous next year because Spencer Dinwiddie is still on that team. But he just tore his ACL. Right. Oh, God. Oh, God. Right.
I forgot all about bro.
Right. See, they might trade him. They might end up trading him. And imagine if they got a center for Spencer Dinwiddie.
Right. And I think that's the one part with that Lakers-Nets matchup is the Nets will have that outside shooting, but the Lakers bigs are going to dominate, and I think that's gonna. I see your face. I see the way you're looking at me, Ruff. But I think it's going to be important because, like you said, at KCP, he's hot right now, but he's inconsistent. We don't know what we're gonna get with Kuz every night. Wesley Matthews, he's been every season, but with with AD, LeBron, what's his name? Montrezl Harrell and Andre Drummond all averaging above 7 assists, you got to know they're going to control the offensive. Yeah, they're going to control the offensive rebound and get a bunch of second chance points. So I think
they're going to have to
outside that 3-point shooting if you get second chance points.
The last thing that worries me is what I'm seeing from Anthony Davis. I know he's been out. He's just not getting back. He's going to be rusty. That's normal. But what is worrying me right now is Andre Drummond. He's very inconsistent these last few games. And his pick and roll defense. Let me tell you something. If you can't play defense in the pick and roll once you go against Kyrie, James Harden, and Kevin Durant, because one of those guys are going to have the ball and the other one is going to be slashing. If Andre Drummond is going to continue to play this poor pick and roll defense, they're going to be in trouble. Big trouble.
As a Lakers fan,
James Harden,
I'm not gonna let you just blame that on Andre Drummond. The pick and roll defense has been trash all year for everybody. It was trash.
But that's my thing. He's supposed to come in and be able to help you there.
I with the pick and roll defense, I don't agree that he's supposed to help you there because
he's got to be able to be. He's got to be able to. Yeah, you got to move your feet, man. They talk about he's supposed to be mobile and all that. So move your feet and get back and be a post presser. So defensive.
Anthony Davis and LeBron James was getting killed on the pick and roll game. It's been a problem for them all season. They're gonna have to figure that pick and roll game out. And I believe they will once everybody gets back and they could get that chemistry in. But I don't know. They're gonna have to get it in quick though. But I agree with you that pick and roll defense has been something I look at every game. How are they gonna play the pick and roll tonight? They played the Magic. The Magic was going pick and roll on them all freaking night to come back from down 16 in the second quarter.
Dwight Powell destroyed them the other night, didn't
he? We're not gonna talk about that. Now, Sean, man, who's winning it all? And don't say Portland because Portland's not gonna win it.
Hey man, I saw this thing on Twitter the other day. What's it called?
It describes you. No.
Listen, it describes you perfectly.
All right, I'm listening.
You're a bronze sexual.
Oh no!
All right.
I wouldn't take it that far.
You didn't say no either, so
I wouldn't take it that far.
But
go ahead and tell us why Portland gonna win. I know.
We're gonna say Portland. Gotta be realistic here because. They're not doing it right now.
Now, Sean's grown up in the past month, y'all. He ain't been realistic.
Man, come on now. Can I talk? Bro?
Go ahead.
The Nets, man. I mean, like Ruff and Keith said, it's just too much firepower. I mean, even then when Harden and Kyrie were playing, James, he was just dishing the ball. He haven't got to his maximum scoring capability. Then Keith said he's been injured. And back in Houston, he was playing almost all the games. I believe he's played 96% of the games since 2013. That's one of the top 3 players in the league that's done that. So I think him having a lot of rest, like you said before in another episode, Mark, is LeBron coming to the playoffs with a lot of rest is going to look scary. So imagine James Harden with that kind of rest and having that firepower. The East is a little weak, so I just don't see a team that can keep up with him.
My concern would be the Nets. They struggle with teams bigs because they don't really have a true center. So I could see that giving them a lot of problems. But I just don't see a team that's going to be able to hold down that big 3. Now, what could be interesting is if the Wizards do win the play-in tournament, because they have given the Nets troubles this season. Those have been some fun games to watch. So. I'm not saying that they would beat him, but I would not count out Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook.
I ain't gonna say I agree with y'all, but y'all make some very great points. The Lakers in 7. But calling it now.
But if to prove my point, Bron's section.
But if Bron beats the Nets, I think we got to call him the GOAT.
and there we go.
Y'all agree?
There we go.
Because it's going to take a lot out of him to beat them 4 times.
Hey, I swear.
But I wouldn't count him out.
Brown's gonna have to go. Brown gonna have to go for. He gonna have to be the second person to post a triple double in the finals, and the only other person to do it was him. So I can see it happening.
He can do that. He can do that, but you're still gonna need the teammates to show up, man. One player is not gonna do it. You're gonna need.
I agree.
Them to step up. And your shooting, like I said, that shooting worries me big time, man. Ben McLemore, though, him being added to the team, that could help with that. He had a really good game, I think, about 2 or 3 games ago. So hopefully he'll be able to step in and make some shots.
I think when they are allowed to be a lot more catch and shoot instead of off the dribble with Brown coming back, I think that will help them be able to increase the shot making. But them getting shots up without LeBron and ADN is the ideal situation. And I say that because last year in the bubble, that's what LeBron did for the first when they had them first 8 games. That's what LeBron did. We seen LeBron, he was averaging they said LeBron was averaging 18 points, and the media was talking down on him, but I seen it. He was passing the ball like I ain't never seen him pass the ball before, because he was trying to get them shots. So I think them getting shots around LeBron is a perfect situation for him. So we're gonna see though. It's gonna be very interesting, especially the playing tournament, and with everything going on right now in the world, it's gonna be. I want to say it's probably gonna be one of the most interesting playoffs we've seen, especially coming from the West.
It's gonna be interesting for sure.
For sure, man. But that's all we have for you guys today. Once again, I appreciate Keith and Russ for coming in and talking with us today. Once again, you can follow Ruff on Timeout Sports. Instagram, it's Timeout_Sports, and on Twitter, it's Timeout_Sports3, and his personal account on Twitter is @TheRuffWay. You can follow Keith on Keithshottakes on Twitter, and his personal page is official_Keith3. As always, I got my guy Nishan here. Want to appreciate him for always being with me, and we out.
Yeah.